Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to our first live recording, first event of Trust and Believe, and for Shaun T Fitness, or Shaun T Inc., I should say. I really appreciate you all coming. I think that this is not something that we all wanted. I believe that it's something that we all needed. And I think, I've spoken before about how wants and needs are two completely different things. Wanting something is a desire, and it can fill either a void or some sort of happiness, maybe for a short period of time, or something you can kind of check off your bucket list. And a need is something that it's almost like you need it for survival. And sometimes there are things that we need that we don't really consider them a need. We kind of think they're a want, but it's actually a need. Like tonight for me, I think, if I can say even more than you, this is something that I needed. I definitely had a really tough time with the pandemic. I don't know if I'm going to cry tonight, but it's possible. But y'all know I like crying, so it's fine. I hope that some of the things that we talk about tonight for the next 45 minutes, resonate with you. And I always say, I learned this from when I was a young kid in church with my grandfather, because I was like, child, what you talking about? When he was talking about the gospel. I didn't say child, but I was like, I was a child, okay? But when I think back, or even when I don't think back, there are a lot of times where I repeat some of the things that he said, and I didn't even know I was paying attention. And now, even if I go to an event or if I'm listening to something and I'm like, oh, this may not resonate with me at this point in time, I still take an active action to try and relate it to some point in my life, whether it's past, present, or future, because I just believe that's how we grow, and I believe that learning is growing. So I hope some of the things that we talk about tonight, anxiety, working through injury, mental health, and being fast. If y'all don't know what being fast is, that means, sexual talk. Regardless of what we talk about tonight, I hope it can resonate with you in some way. So get ready to trust and believe.
What's up? He's better than Oprah. Come on, y'all.
This is Shaun T, and it's time to trust and believe. The first thing I'll talk about is, I kind of spoke about this on our Sip and Shop for those of you who joined the Sip and Shop, but I think I can go into a little bit more detail. And I'll start out by saying the reason I kind of feel comfortable talking about this in a public setting is because I had major support from the CEO of Beachbody, Carl Deichler. I always get really nervous when I talk about something that really affected me negatively with my job, especially with Beachbody, because I've been with them for almost 18 years now. It was literally this month in 2003, I got a call that Kathy Smith wanted me to help her with a project or a program called Project U years and years ago for Beachbody. So when I think back, I'm like, wow, it's been that long, and it's really amazing. Last September, I started Let's Get Up, and it was a program that was absolutely, I was going to say made for me, but I made it. I had a conversation with the lawyer and Carl at Beachbody last summer 2020, and I had a conversation with Carl right after Transform 20 came out, and I was like, I really want to create a program that is designed for everyone, but also to get someone not necessarily off the couch because they're overweight, but just like to want to have that ability to have fun and move. Because, I believe fit doesn't have a size. The smallest person walking down the street can be the most unfit person walking down the street, but it can even get them off the couch and out of the bed and, want to work out when they get home from work or before. And, so when they came to me and said, we want to do a dance program, and I was really excited, but I also wanted to make it different. Dance, toning that ass, because, we definitely want... She's done 7 rounds. It's Nicole, right? Nicole has done 7 rounds of Let's Get Up, okay? Come through. So I made it for you, honey, all right? But, and it was this, really soulful, fulfilling program. And so when I'm creating a program, for those dropping stuff, Somebody dropped something in the audience. But when I'm creating a program, especially when it comes to dance, it is soulful because dance has nothing to do with how great your squat is. It has everything to do with the feeling that you're exuding from the inside at that very moment, and how can you extend your body and your lines to also extend your life in that moment, which is why I love to dance. But I also wanted to bring that toning element, that insanity element, because I wanted it to be friendly for everyone. So that part was fun. Creating music for it and writing music for it and composing music for it was incredible and amazing. And I got back in the studio to sing a little bit because I got some pipes, honey. Shooting it was pretty fine. You know, we did shoot during COVID, so it was kind of a mess. I believe in the human experience, so you know you're going to have issues with people, right? But what I wasn't ready for was post, when it launched. How much more I had to give of myself sitting in front of a screen, in front of a little box, and having to be on, like, I would say, if I had to be on camera 6 hours of the day, I have to be on 12 because I don't like going into anything in an inauthentic space. So the pressure of wanting to be in an authentic space really kind of took a toll on me. And then you have a bunch of people who have to do their job at a company. And so my perception and interpretation of it was, hey, I just launched this thing. I just put my talent out there, and now I'm being treated as a box, and I got to sit in front of this screen. And what I didn't realize it was doing to me while I was, y'all know I'm very vocal, so you know I'm very vocal. While I was very vocal about this is stressing me out, I didn't quite understand how it was stressing me out. So from the end or the beginning, well, I would say right after our vacation, we went to Puerto Vallarta in April because, honey, I was out there shaking everything. But once I got back from there and realizing that, wow, I'm sitting in front of the screen. I'm talking about the same thing. My voice is really tired. I have a headache. And it's really tough because some people look at that like, well, you have an amazing job and you make great money. Like, why the fuck? And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything with you giving your energy, you know? And I'm sure you can all relate, especially during the pandemic. But what I didn't realize is that when the pandemic began and we all got stuck home, our team went right into, you know, attack mode, if you will. We went on offense instead of defense. And I created Dig Deeper Nation. And I jumped into the Shaun T role, and I forgot about Shaun Blocker. So I jumped into the Shaun T role, like, no, like, you know, my people, I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, my people need me. I'm like this, boom, boom. I don't have all the answers, but even if I'm going through whatever, I'm going to help try to put you through the answers. But not until I was giving balls, as I would say, you know, when I'm exponentially giving myself, did I realize that I was like, I don't like throwing around the word depressed, but I was extremely stressed out. Like, internally stressed. I felt like I was going to cry like at every second of the day. No, literally, the tear ducts were ready to open because I was just like giving. And no matter how hard I tried, whether I was dancing, whether I, you know, took time to do a TikTok or whatever, whether I was posting an assless shot, or not an assless shot, a pantsless shot, I got an ass. You know, no matter what I was trying to do, I was like extremely stressed. And then if I can be super transparent with you, I know I'm the kind of person that people lean on. So that's not even like, I think that was my calling in life. But I didn't realize how taxing that would be when I wasn't leaning on myself. And so it got to the end of June of this year, and I was super afraid to call Carl, and I was like, I need to take off. Like, you guys are about to launch Body. I got some work stuff to do, but I was like, I can't. I had nothing left. I called my team together. You know, I cried in front of them. And I took this summer, and I just really kind of lived. And I I traveled. I had fun. We traveled. We did a lot. I'll save that for One Night After Dark. And it was great. And I felt really great coming into the end of September. But anxiety creeped in. And so before I get into this next stage of what I'm about to talk about, I think that this is, oh my God, I'm about to cry because it's so much. It's so much. It's so much because there's a lot of people that go through things, right? And you think you get to this point and you think you're like, oh my gosh, I overcame this hurdle, and then something else like fucking creeps in and you're like, shit. And that's why I'm like a big proponent of going to therapy because, and I know there's a lot of people in here that's been through stuff and like, you know, and you think therapy, you're like, oh my God, I had this like amazing, you know, revelation. But then like, just like fitness, like you hit that plateau and you got more to climb. And so like I started experiencing terrible anxiety. And I remember a year and a half ago, maybe a little more before the pandemic, I was in Philadelphia, I was in a hotel room, and I called a therapist that lived in Arizona, and I was like trying to explain to him what I was feeling. And it was the first time that I heard that anxiety was your fear about the future, and then depression was kind of what happened to you in the past. I was on Zoloft before, so I understood like depression, but I didn't really feel what that was. But I realized that my struggle is high anxiety, like to the max, to the point where this last week is when it, maybe last 2 weeks, it's like when it really crept in, and I would go to Scott and I would be like, oh my God, and he'd be like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. It was just like so like, and you know, thank God I have a Scott that is like super like, oh my God, I'm like a lot, but you know, he like listens and you know, he's there. And so I had an early surprise 50th birthday for him, for he and his friends. And we're like sitting around, we're in this Airbnb having a good ass time. And one of his friends, who I consider to be like one of the most conservative of his friends, was like, yeah, well, you know, over the pandemic, like me and my husband started taking gummies, you know. And I was like, word? And so I'm just like, you know, she was talking about how much it, whatever. So I was like, tell me more about it. Anyway, cut to the chase. That night we went to the dispensary. I was like, I need to figure this out. We're in a safe space, right? I was like, I need to figure this out. And so that night, you know, I took it, and I kind of took it for other reasons. Then I was like, because, you know, the husband was like, yeah, sex on it is lit. And I was like, all right. Me and Scott didn't do it the first night, but I did make a lot of grilled cheese that night. I make a bomb-ass grilled cheese too, honey. So anyway... So then I know I'm a mess. So it was half THC, half CBD. So I wasn't just being straight up messy. Anyway, so, you know, we had that weekend. We ended up having sex on it. It was the bomb. But more than that, like for me, and I wasn't even going to share this, but I'm like, I'm going to share it. And ever since then, not every day, but it has really helped calm me down, sleep better at night. And so, you know, it's legal here in Arizona, but I definitely want to go to a doctor to talk about it a little bit more and a little bit deeper before, you know, I get like, you know, self-medicating myself with gummies. But it's really important. But anyway, to the point about anxiety. I know there's a lot of people that suffer from anxiety, but one of the things that's really annoying is how on social media, I believe it's thrown out there. And and I'm not trying to like diminish someone's struggle, but there are a lot of pages out there that use mental health to make money. Anxiety is a real life thing. And we talk about therapy all the time. I'm looking at you, my love. We talk about therapy all the time, and we talk about anxiety, we talk about mental health. But the real thing is, are you getting help? Because you got to talk about it. It's just like being in a relationship. If you don't talk about it, it's not going to get better. It's going to be packed in a suitcase, and that suitcase is like coming home from a trip. You're like, oh my gosh, like I got to do this, I got to do that. And that suitcase ends up in the back of the closet, and then all of a sudden you got to go on another trip, and then you open up that suitcase and you're like, fuck, all that stuff is still in there, and then you close it up because you still don't feel like dealing with it. And that's what it's like, whether you're in a rough marriage, whether you're anything, but really when it comes to yourself. And I just believe, you know, foundationally being able to talk about it. I remember going to therapy first when I was a young adult. I'm still young. And, you know, it was a gay therapist, and I was like, wow, like, this is really great. And I felt like I was more accepting of my gayness, even though I was always child, because, you know, I don't care. But I really, at the time, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, wow, going into therapy really helped me understand who I was, especially as a gay therapist. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I'm healed. And then I had to go to therapy again when I found Scott, which a lot of you have read in my book. And so understanding love was a different kind of therapy that I needed. And that unleashed and revealed some other things. And then going through this anxiety, and I didn't tell you this yet, but I finally realized what it was by just like being honest with myself. Oh my gosh. So I'm getting this tattoo tomorrow. And one of the cameramen on my Live It Up shoot, it was like the few workouts we did after Let's Get Up, he was like, oh my gosh, like the way you talk on camera is so deep. It's so in depth. And you know, are you going to get more tattoos? Because he was checking out my tattoos. And I was like, yeah, I really want to get a big tattoo, this whole thing. So he was like, I'm going to hook you up with this guy who won Ink Masters, whatever. But he's like, you know, you're going to have to, you know, kind of tell your story. And for me, I started thinking about my story. And I started crying about my story again. And I heard a few days prior that if you still cry about your childhood trauma, then you're not healed. And for a very long time, like I thought I was like completely healed, right? I'm listening to this. Okay, so now I got to go back. Y'all know I'm a little wild. So I got to go back like 6 or so months. And I was talking to my friend Jessica Nelson, Dare to Dream, for those of you who are here. And I was talking to her about something, and then I started listening to the song India Ari, The Heart of the Matter. And then in one of the lines of the song, it says something like, if you put it all behind you, life goes on, but you keep carrying that anger, and it'll eat you up inside. And so I heard that a few months ago, and I'm like, but I'm not really mad. Like what? Like, you know. So this week, I don't know if I was driving my car or something. I was just like, you know, young Shawnee was molested, right? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm still relying on him in times. And I have to like let him be a kid. And I still never let myself be a kid, you know? So that's like the revelation that I had. And I'm like, wow, like this is, because I never knew where the anxiety was coming from. And I'm like, but something stuck. Now, I haven't been to therapy yet for this. I got to get my life together, clearly. I'm going to call Mel after this, honey. But I'm just saying, like, and I was talking to Aliza earlier, and, you know, she was talking about how she wasn't being her true self, and she wanted to put on the mask, you know? And I know there's a lot of us out there that are doing that, and I think that in order to be better in the future or help yourself in the future, if you're not going to therapy, is to really deal with the past. Because I think that a lot of that stuff becomes a blockage for you, for your fear. It's even like our kid, Silas has gotten to this point where if he does one thing wrong and we just kind of like, okay, he's like, I'm sorry. He starts freaking out. And Scott and I look at each other like, I mean, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't understand. And I'm like, well, what happened? Like, what happened? Like, what did we do as parents? Because we're not perfect. When a year ago, you know, did he get in trouble for something and that really affected him? You know, so it's like, anyway, I say all that to say, sometimes our past, like, we kind of have to look into that. I don't know if you're in therapy or whoever is, but it's really important for us to talk about it because I think that that's one of the best ways to overcome anxiety, if not the best way, and take some gummies. But some of the things that I definitely do is I definitely make a point to be by myself. I actually, before, like all of us guys, we work out together often because I'm practicing my body workouts, and I felt really bad yesterday because Scott was in the primary suite, and I had kicked Scott out. I'm like, can you leave? And I felt really bad, but I realized that I need space. You know, I was like, I need to have my time. Like, I'm not like a sit and meditator kind of person, but whenever I'm about to do something, I definitely understand that I need time. I need time and space. And so the last thing I'll say, and I'll try to explain this really well, I've gotten into this ridiculous habit of watching and listening to like everything that has to do with outer space because I'm obsessed with how we got here. I know, you know, God created the heaven and the earth, and I know Adam and Eve, and I know somebody bit that apple, and that's why we sin. And I know for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I know. However, I do believe in the Big Bang. I believe in gravity. I believe in the gravitational pull. And so there was one video I was listening to, and it was like kind of like this teaching / debating of the host of the show, talking about, did space and time really exist before the Big Bang? And at the end of the day, that's what we're living in, space and time. Who are you allowing in your space to help propel you forward? And are you maximizing your time? Right? And so when I think of space and time, and I think of stress or depression or mental health or anxiety, the more time we give it, the less space we have for ourselves. And I just thought that was just like really important. Like, I wonder what it would be like, which I wouldn't know, but I wonder what it would be like before space and time existed, because that's the thing that moves us along, but it's also the thing that stresses us the fuck out the most. You know, I really do believe that's what our lives comes down to, space and time. You decided to come here today. It took time out of your comfortable space, or maybe you're in an uncomfortable space and maybe the space is comfortable for you. But if you can fill your space and your time with positivity, which is really hard to do, is really great. Which takes me to one of the things you spoke about earlier, talked about, is like allowing people into your space. Knowing when relationships are too much. Knowing when it's okay to move on. You know, I had to do that with my family, namely my mom, and I'm over this, so I won't cry about this because I'm like really fine with it now. But I remember when I felt, I'm just going to put it out there, Mom, I love you, cool. I remember after I told my mom that I was sexually molested by the man that I was sexually molested by for 4 years. She was in this, they had already separated, but I know she was still controlled mentally by him. No one will ever understand this unless you've been in this situation. People are like, oh my God, they're not in your life. Like, you should be fine. I told her I was molested by this man for 4 years as a kid, and she still talked to him. So what did that do for me? You know, I went through it. And not only that, that's when I started to be successful. I'm from the hood. We grew up on food stamps. Boom. I'm supporting my family. You know, it's just what we do. Maybe a lot of you is what you do, but that's just what we do. And I just remember Scott and I remember us being in River Place, and I just remember being like, I don't want to pay for them anymore. At this point, I feel like I was the one that was abused. I was the one that was abused. No one had my back. Why should I be supporting the people who didn't support me? And it was really tough. Do you remember how tough that was? It was really tough. And I just remember the freedom that I got when I was able to say, you actually don't deserve my space and time. It has nothing to do with whether you like them a lot or not, whether you're mad at them. But do these people deserve your space and time? You don't have to be mean to them. I didn't have to stop talking to them, but I could decide if I wanted to go home. I could decide if I wanted to go to Thanksgiving. I could decide whether or not I wanted to pay their bills. And I remember the first time they asked for money and I said no. Now this might be like, okay. No, it was incredible. And I was like so happy about it. And I know that sounds really mean. I'm like, I hope you literally have to like go work 5 jobs right now. Because you didn't have my back, and it diminished me to the smallest molecule possible. And I remember, it was a process, though. It was a process of, you know, maybe not accepting the phone calls that they were calling, or not calling back. Because every time I would call home, it would be this drama. And I'm like, you actually don't deserve my space and time. And then it came to a point where I had to be very vocal about why. You know, so I'll tell you and anyone else who, this may be the short answer, that may be going through something about like dealing with people in your life. One, like I said, do they deserve your time? Only you know that. And quite honestly, one of the things that we don't realize is just because I think this is funny, but sometimes I'm like, that person doesn't deserve my space and time. I'm like, well, I probably don't deserve theirs either. Because sometimes when you eliminate time from someone, not necessarily like cutting them out, like I never want to talk to you again, but you could be doing them a service too, you know, and you are the stronger one to say like, this relationship is not healthy, right? And I think that when we go into a situation where we have to either put a relationship on pause or completely sever it, it has to be the healthiest option for both. And it's okay. And it's really tough, and it's okay. So with my mom, I know I didn't want to be like, I never want to talk to you again, because I know that she suffered too. My mom was a person that, you know, she actually got raped by my father, and she had my brother, and she was made to get married because my grandfather was a pastor, and she got married in the house, and she had twins, and my brother's twin died 3 months, and she told me, she was like, you were the rainbow baby. That's the first time I heard that, but I realized I was one of them, right? And so... And then she was with this man, and she was, you know, he was an alcoholic, and he put a gun to her head, and that's the only reason why she left. So I knew I knew it was that I never wanted to talk to her again, but I needed to heal myself, and she couldn't be a part of that healing. But there was a time where I had to sever a relationship, and it was with a friend, and it was someone that, she was my best friend since I think we were in like 8th grade. And she just brought so much turmoil, but more to my life, to Scott, to my entire team. And it got to a point where I definitely know it was unhealthy for her and her relationship, but it was just unhealthy because it was hard for us to be productive. So what I did was, I knew this was going to be really tough, but I was just like, I had to ask myself, is it going to be tougher to continue to deal with this person and baby them in this relationship? Because usually when you want to separate somebody, they're either super abusive or they're just taking a lot of energy from you, right? So I bought her the book, The Slight Edge, and I wrote her a note. And I like to joke around and say I gave her walking papers, you know? But I was able to, like, end the relationship in a way to be like, I truly love you as a person. I really do. But you're just not good for me. And good luck, you know? And there was no argument behind it. You know, I think a few years later, still tried some shenanigans, and, you know, but I just, you know, I ignored it. But I'm just saying that because there's multiple ways to eliminate people from your space and time. I want to say communication is key. It's actually okay to talk to people, to be like, hey, this is where we are. If you haven't, this is where we are right now. This isn't serving me, and I don't know if it's serving you or not. But like my father-in-law has taught Scott and I through our relationship, soft on a person, hard on a problem. We use it in our business. We use it in I use it in my relationships, my friendships. I've used it while using Scott's calmness, because I'm wild. So, instead of me just lashing out, now I'm like, but what's the real issue here? You know? And so there's a way to have a conversation and end a relationship in a way that's serving to both people. So there's just some tips. I think we all have been in a situation where I'm not sure if this person deserves my space and time. There was another subject we wanted to talk about, which is so crazy. Mandy was talking about injury. How many people deal with injuries and they're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can move forward. So you talked about how do you work through injuries. So I think some of you were on the live interview with Dr. Z a few days ago. I did an interview with a physical therapist. He used to be a chiropractor, ex-bodybuilder. I think he still is bodybuilding because that body's right, honey. But we asked the question about, if I'm injured, can I still move through the injury, right? And it was important. He was like, yes, and this, that, and the third. But to your point, like right now I have 2 injuries it's insane. Like my shoulders are in a tremendous amount of pain. When I was in Monaco, you saw that physical therapist in my room at 2 a.m. I wasn't being fast. I'm married. So I get to Monaco, and I remember I had to do this event, and I remember like, wow, Pierre's here and these really great physical therapists are here. And this is where being positively selfish comes in. Like in the past, I would never have called somebody who lives in France that's on another job, like 3-hour flight away, to selfishly come, whatever. So he sent me a message and I was like, hey, I'm in Monaco, do you mind coming down? And he's like, I don't think I can because whatever. And then 2 hours later, he was like, I think I can make it. Like, can you get my flight? And I was like, yes. He was like, when I arrive, I don't care what time it is, we'll do a session. So we did a session from like, I think 11:30 to like almost 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he really worked on my knees because even though the stem cell works, but it's still, I still needed to back it up through something. But one of the things that I learned, because when I do squats, it's extremely painful. And a lot of you are going to like this, what I'm about to say. So y'all know when I'm having you do squats, even in Let's Get Up or the Insanity section, and I'm like, pulse, and I'm like, get low, and I'm like, stay down here. He was like, you are fucking up your meniscus when you do that. From like, so I'm not going to make y'all do that anymore. Only because I can't do it. But no. This month. So you'll see the workouts that I do, the workouts that I have coming up in body, they're full squats. So prior to going to him, you know, I would do moves like that, and he was like, you're really messing up your meniscus. You like have to do full deep squats. And so I was able to be on my toes and take my butt to my heels after stem cell, but it was really tough for me to do super deep squats. And he like gave me this this regimen to do. So now, fast. I'm coming in fast. So there's a move this month in one of my Let's Get Up workouts where you have a however heavy. I had a 30. And I really can go all the way down and all the way up and all the way down. And I literally could not do that before him. And he's like, you have to work through it. Like, it's pain. He's like, you talk about full, he says it in his French accent, you know, full range of motion. And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, well, you have to do that in your squats. Like, you can't stop. So you'll see some of the and a lot of the exercises we will be doing for range of motion. But work through the injury. So I think you've heard this story before, but I'm going to tell you again because you asked about it. We were in New York City. I just found out that I was going to get the cover of Men's Health. Was I the first gay man on the cover of Men's Health?
Openly?
Oh, openly. And I was playing tennis. I was like, oh my gosh, and I backed up and I pulled my calf muscle. And so I'm like, so the Men's Health shoot was in 6 weeks, and I'm like, you have to be bleeping kidding me. I don't know why I'm saying bleeping. But I went into, well, what is it that I can do? Because I believe that a lot of times when people get injured, or maybe they gain 15 pounds, and they realize it, they look at that as a point to either complain or give up, when every injury is workable. When every pound, I don't want to say is losable, but it's workable, right? Because weight loss doesn't happen fast. I'm fast, but weight loss doesn't happen fast. What are you going to do? Like, am I going to show up to the Men's Health cover not right? No. Pull my calf muscle, lifted weights, put my diet in check, did push-ups on one leg. Once I was able to put my foot down on the floor, I danced on one leg. I didn't move laterally, but I was making up choreography. And what can you do, right? There are some things that are extremely debilitating where you're like, oh my gosh, but I can still move my legs, right? There's, I can still hold a plank, get into that position. So if you're dealing with an injury, there's always something that you can do. And if you can't physically do anything, you have to work the mental muscle. Because the mental muscle is going to be the thing to make you eat right. Not perfect. Eat right, okay? Right for you, So these are the things, like, you still have to work that mental muscle even when your physical muscles are just down. That even, just reading some of your messages on Instagram or reading some of your posts, that just also filters in to, like, the biggest injury that I think we've all been through in some way is stress and grieving, right? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be stressed. These are all injuries in our lives, right? And it might feel really insensitive or sound really insensitive for me to say, but you can move through it. You can move through it. You don't have to get over it. I hate when people tell me to get over it. No. You don't have to get over it, but you can move through it. I remember when I was learning tennis and it would stress me out. I can't tell you how many rackets I've broken in my day, which is, some people find it embarrassing, but most of the coaches that I have think it's great. And then I end up winning the match after I break a racket. I used to say when I would play tennis and I was having a really tough time, I was like, well, what's the one thing that I love doing? I love dancing. So when I'm out on the tennis court and I'm having a really tough time, I'm like, dance with the ball. Right? If you have that stress going on, dance with the stress. You don't have to enjoy the stress, but turn on the music and dance with the stress. Sit there in your mind. I'm telling you, when I put on Brandy or India Ari, I can have the worst anxiety and worst stress in my life, and the music, like, I get lost in the chords, and they're even better with a gummy. But we ain't doing that after the movie. Unless you're ready. No, I'm kidding. Well, that's after party. But, you know, like, so all of these things, these moments, these things that we're going through, if we want to be really honest, they're all injuries. Like putting up that mask that we talked about. This is an injury to your soul. Things that happen to you that you didn't ask for. Things that happen to you that you did ask for. Things that you created on your own by not being honest with yourself. It doesn't matter if you did it or if it was done to you. Just like no body is better than the rest, no injury is better than the rest, no stress is. My sexual abuse is no better than or worse than a divorce. You know, my sexual abuse is not worse than you getting fired from your job. It's not, because this is what you are going through. And if we collectively dance with the injury, dance, you know, when you were in your house and you felt something in your old house, and you sat there, that was dancing with it, like understanding, you know. We dealt with some paranormal stuff. We ain't gonna talk about that, but it's true, and I believe in it because I have a whole story. But anyway, you know, I want you guys to, like, if I want to close there before I open it up to, like, more questions, I think that every single person in here can do this. Like, everybody in here is smarter than the rest of us about something, right? Whether it's overcoming struggle, whether it's overcoming a health problem, whether it's what you do for work, you know, we all are an elite at something. And so I would just really invite you either tonight or in the group is, like, lean on each other. It's really important because if you're in this room, then you know what success feels like. You know what struggle feels like. You know what living feels like. You know what being different feels like. And I think that we should learn how to also lean on each other as we're going through our own dances. Now, with that said, does anyone have any specific question?
So if you are naturally a 12 and you show up as a 9.
Wait, if you're naturally a 12, like, what do you mean? Energy. No, you're a 10. So let's before you continue your question, I want to be very clear about something. I don't believe in 120%. I think it's bullshit. I think 120% is bullshit, and I think telling somebody that they're 12 out of 10 is bullshit. No, because you're a 10, and if you give 100%, that's fine. You know, you're 100. Just if you're in a relationship and you're like, oh my God, I give 120%. No, you give 100%. They just need to pull the fuck up, right? Like, just let's call a spade a spade. 100% is 100%. Like, you don't get extra credit in life, right? Like the way. DNA, I mean, you fine as fuck, but, like, you ain't a 12. You know what I mean? You're a 10. You're a 10. I'm giving you a 10. I mean, you know, maybe you be hitting that 12 spot in the bedroom, but you a 10. Okay? You can take 2 points from Mel and get your 12. But at the end of the day, I just want to, like, I want to put everybody in like, we all got 10. If it's a 1 out of 10, nobody's a 12. Like, we a 10. Energy-wise, I know, I get it, but go ahead. I just wanted to...
Naturally a 10.
Hey!
And you show up as an 8, right? And how do you, like, reconcile that difference when people point it out? And how do you reconcile that difference in yourself? Right? I'm showing up as an 8. I should be a 10. I'm naturally a 10. People expect me to be a 10. But I'm an 8 today.
Yeah. Right? Oh, my gosh. So congratulations on being human. Because ebbs and flows are like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the earth isn't flat. It's not a flat earth for flat earthers if you're a flat earther. And even if it were, there are hills and valleys and mountains, and people climb Mount Kilimanjaro, okay? So, like, imagine you climbing up a mountain. Like, you're going to need a break. I used to be like that. I used to be a level 10. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be a level 10 and be like, and then people would be like, what's wrong? When I was like a 4, because I would crash hard, you know? And it's just like, I think I had to ask myself, was I forcing myself to be a 10 when I'm really at a good spot as an 8? You know what I'm saying? Because I think there's two things that happen when you show up as a 10, right? Either you feel really great and you're in that zone, or you feel pressure to be at what you consider your best, when being at a 6 is like completely fine. Because if I'm in a room full of people, I'm not going up to the 10. I'm like, because that's going to be a lot of energy. I'm going to the 6 because I want to sit on the couch and chill, right? But if you feel like a 10, like, be a 10 that day. But I think that you just understand, like, you have ebbs and flows. So that's for you. But when people come up to you and be like, what's wrong? I'm just living my best life, and this is what I got for you today.
If you were raised to be a people pleaser, and that's why you got love from your parents or any attention from your parents, how do you kind of undo that?
If you were raised to be a people pleaser and you got love from your parents, so that was one of the things that gave you confidence, if you will, how do you undo that? Scott, can you come answer this question?
Acknowledging it is the first step. Understanding that what you're doing is not for yourself, it's for someone else. It's actually a little bit for yourself, because I am a people pleaser. All my life, I even today, I enjoy doing things for other people. I don't know why. I still think about it. I am in my head a lot. Why do I do the things that I do? That question is there a lot. And is it because I actually enjoy it, or is it because I'm doing it for someone else and I'm pleasing them, so therefore it's pleasing me? So I think it's about having that conversation of figuring out why you're pleasing someone else. Because if you're not pleasing yourself, what I realized was if you aren't pleased with who you are, you really can't please other people. You can fake please, and I did it for 38 years of my life. It's about having the conversation to figure out why you're doing it. Why are you pleasing? Why are you going and doing this? Why are you doing that? It's like, okay, your own little therapy session, having a question and answer, and then like sitting with it, and then coming back to it, and then going back to it again. So for me, I realized the reason why I was pleasing other people is because if they're happy, they won't ask me questions about me. They will be my friend, and they won't worry about me because I've pleased them. The questions of, are you gay? Like, who are you seeing? Like, you're a fag, like all these things. I've had that conversation recently in my brain because I'm trying to figure out why I still do the things that I do. But it's about the deflection. Like, for me, it was, okay, if I make you happy, you won't ask anything about what's going on over here. And if you ask the question, I can do my best to answer it, but the deflectors can only deflect so much. You know, I watch Star Trek all the time, and I love Star Trek. They're like, shields at 20%. I'm like, yes, shields are at 20%. I cannot deflect this anymore because they went from 80 to 75 to like 60. Now they're at 20 because the people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you like girls? Like, why are you not dating? Like, like you're only with girls for 2 weeks. Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, shields at 20%. Like, I know why, but I don't want to communicate it to you. And so it's about, first for me, it's understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and then being able to then apply it to, okay, I know why I'm doing it, and therefore I'm not going to do it. I'm going to figure out why I'm doing it, so therefore I can do it for me. Because once I realize what works for me, then I can even become a better person or a version of myself. Today I was doing interviews, and someone said to me, which was very nice, they're like, oh my God, you're so easy to talk to. And I'm like, I love that you and Shaun, the stuff that you do for your community and for just people in general in life is wonderful. And I was like, I always think that compliment is interesting because I'm just being me. I wasn't 38 years, and I say, I've said this before, that before I met Shaun, I was living life in black and white. And when I met him and I realized that I can be myself and it's free and that I will always have him by my side and I love him more than life itself, I live life in color. And so I now, because of that, people are like, you guys are so amazing. And I'm like, I'm just being me. And that is the most amazing thing ever. So once you understand why you're doing what you're doing, ask yourself that question. Why are you pleasing other people? Mm-hmm. And it may take a little bit, but once you figure that out, then you can then make a step to change it if you want to, or continue to do it if you want to, or at least pick and choose when you want to do it. So,
and then I just want to say thank you. I think it's really interesting. I never heard people like, I'm pleasing you so you don't ask me about me. And in closing, I want to say, I don't know, you said something about the sun that just like made me go here. So maybe you know this and maybe you don't. But did you know, and the sun is also battling with space and time. So I don't know if you noticed, but in 5 million years, our sun will burn out, right? A lot of people don't know that. And so one of the things I found to be really amazing about that is, because I'll always be like, oh my God, I want to live forever. But I'm like, no, I don't, bitch, because I don't want to be around when that happens. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. And I love living in Arizona, but that's just too hot for me. So here's what I want. And this is coming from a person, and I should probably hook up with one of your therapist friends to talk about this more. But like, my fear of death got a little bit better when I realized that our son was going to die too.
Sun as in the sun. Not one of our sons, but as the sun that heats our earth.
Yep. The sun. Calm down. It's all right.
I'm clarifying for Tracy in Kenosha that does not understand. And
she sees me. Like, that helped me a lot. But beyond that, it also helped me with the fact that, like, I too, in my, we always say we're going to live to be 100. It's just a nice round number. But, like, it's such a small amount of time, and I take up such a small amount of space. So if that big-ass sun that fuels us, fuels our plants, if that's going to die too, then I need to do as much as I fucking can while I'm here. Like, I need to do it. I need to do everything I can to have a good-ass time. And when I'm not having a good-ass time, I need to do everything I can to work through it, And so it's like, if there's one thing that I believe that we think we lost, and which is why I think we all needed this tonight. The pandemic, we think it took time away from us, right? Like, we think it took time away from us, but it actually gave us a lot of time. And it made us look within. It made us make the mistakes. It made us sit in turmoil. And I will congratulate everyone here, and this has nothing to do with COVID. I congratulate you on being here today. Meaning, like, being here just because, like you made it. And how many people patted themselves in the back for making it through a crazy-ass pandemic? It became a part of our lives. We got shut down. We got stuck in the house. Some of us still travel a little bit, But it was rough, And like I told you, like, I had some revelations. I ignored myself, but it does not matter. There was still time. We didn't lose time. You learned a lot about yourself. You had to be stuck in the house with your spouse. You argued about the first 3 months. We argued about, I don't know what we was arguing about. We still had sex though, so that was good. Brother, I still was getting mine, honey. I said, we could do all this mess all you want. We still shutting it the fuck down, bitch. So, but anyway, we didn't lose time. We did not lose time. We did not lose time. We did not lose time. Just know that the decisions you make, they're the right ones for that time. And if they need to be fixed, you're the one that has to take ownership and fix it. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll talk about this another time, I'm just going to finish with this. Besides saying trust and believe in who you are, just know that you can't rush greatness. You can't rush greatness, but you can live highly in your space and time. Thank you all so much for being here today. I love y'all.